Hello everybody, welcome back to Frontier Patriot. I'm Ron Rayfield. This is my beautiful fiance and slash co-host, Justine Dorn. Today we have Hamburg sausage, the ancestor of hamburgers.
Oh, we have an 18th century hamburger station right here. I don't even know if they have hamburger stations in modern times, but we have one here right now for you all.
Hamburger station.
Hamburger station. So you're probably looking, you're like, okay, hamburger station, it's missing one thing, the hamburgers. Like the actual meat part, right? Instead we have sausages?
Hamburg sausage.
Hamburg sauce? Okay. So this receipt comes from the 1750s publication by Hannah Glass of The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy. And this is actually not an American recipe. This was published in England by Hannah Glass. However, this book quickly became a bestseller in the colonies. So much so that even though it was originally printed in England, in London, it eventually got started to be printed in America.
And there was many renditions of it, editions that come out over the next 50 years, all the way into the 19th century. I believe there's like an 1820s copy of it.
Yeah, it's probably arguably the best-selling cookbook of all time, I would say. At least in terms of how long it was being sold for, because imagine a cookbook being popular for 100 years. It's kind of not heard about these days, but Hannah Glass's cookbook was popular for just about 100 years. Now, why does this not look like a modern hamburger very much? Well, in the 18th century, this is what a hamburger was. It was Hamburg steak, or it was Hamburg sausages.
Now focus on the ingredients more than the shape of it. Sausages have been around for thousands of years. They mostly consist of pork, but this is Hamburg in a sausage form, sausage shape, I should say.
Yeah, okay, so here's the big misconception everyone has, and I can understand why you would think that. Hamburgers were invented in Hamburg, Germany. Duh! Actually, no, not at all. Hamburgers were not invented in Hamburg, Germany. What was invented in Hamburg was the concept of cooking ground up beef with spices. And so Hamburg is home to the Hamburg steak and the Hamburg sausage, which later would turn into the hamburger that we know today. And the Germans actually got the whole concept of eating minced up spiced beef from Mongolia. So there were traders that went there. It was like almost 1,000 years ago.
It was and then it was beef tartare is what they were basically eating. They were eating it raw.
They were eating raw minced beef with spices in it, and they took that concept back with them to Europe, and eventually they started cooking it. And it remained like this, either as a patty or as just sausages, until the very first known reference that's recorded, is at least the most popular one for sure, that anyone can easily find back in the 18th century, of putting it on bread. And that is in Hannah Glass's cookbook. So that is the earliest form of the recognizable hamburger that we have today. Now, you guys out there might be saying, oh, the ancient Romans, they had meat patties and all that stuff. Sorry there's flies in here, by the way. It's summertime.
And it's hot today.
Yeah, it's hot. So you might be thinking, well, like the ancient Romans, they had these meat patties and they would put herbs and things in them as well. But there was no bread involved. And it was usually pork. So this has bread, this has ground beef, and this has spices. It's technically a hamburger. And the name of it is Hamburg steak or sausage, depending on the form that you're eating it as. So this is the earliest known recorded record of what would turn into the hamburger.
Okay, well, let's put some of that in my belly because I'm starving.
Yeah! So good luck, because it is a little weird. I will admit it's a little weird.
Now, if you want to see this being made, please go over to our main channel, Early American. Over there we make all the dishes that we eat and review here on Frontier Patriot. Over there we cook it.
And here we eat it.
That's right.
Ron, good luck with this one, because guess what, guys? This has wine in it. Wine and rum. I don't prefer wine on my hamburger personally.
Me neither.
You out there, what's your opinion on that? I don't think even in 5-star restaurants they do something quite like that.
So they could skillet cook these, or they could smoke them if you got the time for it. But the whole point of it is to split it open butterflied, if you will, and then put it on the bread.
And then put it on toasted bread. Now, just for funsies, we have all the modern delicacies here. We have tomatoes, pickles, American-style cheese, mustard, ketchup, and lettuce. They would have not have put these things on this dish back then, but we are going to do it today to see if we can make this very strange 18th century hamburger actually taste like a dang hamburger.
Now, I wonder if this is supposed to be eaten with a fork.
No, it's not.
Because it's an open face.
No, it's not. You just pick the bread up and eat it.
Okay.
So first, Ron's going to try it without any of the fancy modern stuff on it.
Well, first we're going to say a grace, and then we're going to try it.
Yes, that's true.
So, if you would, bow your head.
My turn or your turn?
It is my turn.
Okay.
Dear Lord, thank you for everything that we have. Thank you for all our friends and all of the fans that are watching us. We hope that they're having a great week and staying safe in their everyday lives. And we just thank you for this food. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I already tried this without the fancy stuff. I actually haven't tried it with the fancy stuff yet. And yeah, it's a little weird, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, really. I will say that natural hog casing is very, very tough compared with artificial casing that you usually get from the store today. Is it better than you thought it was going to be? Because this has wine in it. It has cloves, it has nutmeg. It actually has garlic in it, which is very unusual in recipes of the time because they thought garlic was more of a medicine than a food.
I don't dislike it, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
I'm tasting the wine. The wine is really throwing me off. Now, I like the texture of it. So, there's no meat grinders in the 18th century. So, this was all done by hand. I do like the texture of it, how it's chunkier beef. It's kind of like instant mashed potatoes versus your mom's homemade mashed potatoes. It's a little bit lumpy in there, and it's good, it's hearty, it's rustic.
I like a lumpy hamburger.
Well, I like to know that there's some meat in there, not just like a moose or...
oh, yeah, ew,
So
no.
I like the texture. If this didn't have the wine, I would really, really like this.
You know, you're right. The wine is just such a terrible idea. And that really tells you that this is a recipe from the mid-18th century.
Because the wine is very strong.
Yeah. They really put alcohol in everything back then. I mean, it's a very bizarre concept to me. Ron's going in for a second bite. It's very brave of you. Well, you know what I'm going to do?
I do like it.
I'm going in for some American cheese.
You're going to modernize it now?
I'm going to modernize it. And you know what? American cheese is only okay if you eat it on hamburger. Otherwise, what are you doing?
I will say this would be easier with a top piece of bread.
Oh yeah, there's so many other kinds of cheeses out there you can eat that are way better. But there's something about American cheese on a hamburger. It's like you just have to eat it.
I think I'm going to use a top crust.
Yeah, make it modern. Okay, let's do it. Let's make this as modern as we possibly can.
And while we're doing that, I will talk about the next event that's coming up in St. Genevieve here real soon. The second weekend of August is the Jerdefet Festival here in St. Genevieve. That's one of the largest arts and crafts vendor type festival. It's free in America. It's been going on for some odd years, maybe 50 plus years, I believe. And we're there every year, and Candy is with us too. So if you're in the St. John area on the second weekend of August.
Now, doesn't this look like a modern hamburger now?
It does.
See, there you go. We have the core of a hamburger right here. We have the ground beef, we have the bread. Okay, so now you just have to add the modern things and then boom, oh, okay, I recognize this. This is a hamburger.
Pickles, please?
It just needed a couple hundred years to evolve into what it is today. It needed a little bit of some time, and we added ketchup and mustard to it as well.
Now what it is today came around right at the last minute of the 19th century and very beginning of the 20th century with the round bun and the cheese on it.
Yeah.
I'm missing cheese. I need a piece
of
cheese. And mustard. Or ketchup.
The cheese kind of stuck together a little bit.
Now, I know it's not really cheese. There's going to be somebody out there, oh, it's not cheese, it's American cheese. But we're going for a diner cheeseburger hamburger thing here. And
I'll reference all you non-American people out there. You think, oh, you Americans, you actually eat this. We actually don't often eat American cheese.
I'm a cheddar guy. I like cheddar.
Yeah. Usually we only eat this if it's on a burger. Like, that's really the only time Americans actually eat this kind of cheese is like a barbecue or a burger.
But still, cheddar is better on a burger.
Yeah, that's true. But other than that, we usually eat 50 million other different types of cheeses. Okay, let's try it out.
Now I feel like I'm at a fancy gourmet burger place.
Wow. Shocking. What? That's actually good now.
I know, right?
Whoa. Wow, this actually tastes like a normal modern burger now.
I don't taste the wine as much anymore because they got all these other flavors. Oh, good.
Okay, Ron, what would you rate this? 1 out of 10 as it was in the 18th century, and then we'll rate 1 out of 10 as it is modernized.
Plain 18th century style. If I was living in that time period, I would give it a 8. Living in the 21st century, I'm going to give it a 4.5. 4.5. Now, as a modern rendition here with it, I'm going to give it an 8. This is, like I said, it's like being at a gourmet burger place. This is nice. Now, I would prefer it not to be in the casing and just pattied up. It's easier to chew and easier to tear off like your teeth. I'm
pleasantly surprised.
But it is good.
So as it is in the 18th century, I would give it a 5 out of 10. I really wish that the receipt said to serve it with something, like with mustard at least. But it's totally up to the individual. It wasn't written down. So it's, maybe they did it back then. I don't know. But as it is like this, to be honest, I'm going to go a little lower than Ron did. I'm just going to give it a 6.
A 6?
Because I do still taste the wine. But I really, really, really don't like wine. I've never liked wine. It's like my arch nemesis is wine. I think because I was raised Catholic, so I just associate the taste of wine with Sunday Mass. And I cannot sit there and eat it in a burger and enjoy it, because to me it tastes like Sunday Mass, you know, like mentally I can't block that out. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the wine in it. It's a very weird combination, but not unusual for the time period at all. But it's a little weird. I don't know if I'll be finishing it.
I'll finish it for you. I do like it. I'm gonna talk some more though. So last summer we did make the ketchup that they would have had back then, and yes, they would have had mustard as well. So while these are modern mustard and ketchups, you can find them. They're very rare, especially the ketchup. But we did make it, and it was actually good. It was kind of more like a marinara sauce. Sauce.
It wasn't thick like modern ketchup is.
But it was tasty.
Yeah, and it was just called tomato sauce.
Yeah.
Eventually it got called ketchup. It was called catsup at first.
We also did onion rings. And we did curly fries. So they have all this stuff.
Fried chicken?
Yeah, fried chicken. So they're just under different names. There's beef cakes, which look like burgers, but they're not served on bread, so they're not a burger.
Yeah, this is the closest thing we've actually made of a burger.
Yeah. And there's meatballs, but they're not called meatballs. They're called forced meat. You're forcing the meat. So everything has a different name. So you can find things that are around today, back then, if you really look.
French fries is the biggest example of that, because people will Google, like, when was French fries invented? Well, it wasn't called French fries in our time period. It was just called fried potatoes. So they had so many different recipes for fried potatoes in the 18th and 19th century. You can't really throw a rock without hitting one in a cookbook, really. And they were cut into the same shape as modern day French fries, and they were fried in lard. Sometimes they were fried in butter. But they had a lot of these modern day comfort foods. They were just called something completely different. But I will say, out of all the stereotypical comfort foods that we've tried on the channel, this is the weirdest and most different from the modern version.
Right.
This is definitely a little astray, and I don't think that most people would like this, to be frank. I mean, just because it has wine in it, it's strange. Now, there might be someone out there that's like, I'm a drunk and I love meat. This sounds like it's right up my alley. Sure, okay, fine. I mean, but the majority of people, I think I can comfortably say, do not add rum and red wine to their sausages. Humbug.
Well, hey, let's get into some of these This Week in History topics. We have quite a few birthdays this week, actually.
Yeah, and then when he's done with that, let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we?
It literally is an elephant. It's huge.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit.
All right, so this week I got, for July 30th, Henry Ford, which you guys might have heard of him.
Hold up. I know that man. I haven't met him personally, but I know that man.
You drive a Ford, don't you? I'm a Chevy.
That's the name of my horse, yes.
I got a horse named Chevy, but that's okay. Anyways, he was born on July 30th in 1863, so happy birthday to Henry Ford. He made
1863?
He lived till 1947, I believe.
Wow, that's really cool. So he founded the Ford Motor Company.
Yep. Made a lot of cars that were affordable. That was the whole thing about the Model T, to be affordable for every American. And I think they made more than any car has ever been made.
Wow. Yeah, it's Ford American as an American car company.
All right, moving on. August 1st, Francis Scott Key is born. Now, you know who Francis Scott Key is?
No.
He is the guy who wrote the poem, The Star-Spangled Banner. Not the song, the poem.
The poem that got turned into the song.
That's right. He wrote the poem to the tune of a early 18th century British drinking song.
And we listened to the song for fun, and
It's horrible.
Horrible. Like, no offense, you redcoats out there, but what were you thinking? I mean, that song is horrible. You can look it up online if you'd like to.
It is called To Acreon in Heaven. I probably pronounced that wrong, but we don't use that word here in America, so take it for what you can.
Yes, so the tune is the same, the music part, but the lyrics are completely different.
Now, our first national anthem here in America was called Chester, and we've played that at the 4th of July celebration with the drum and fifes, but it wasn't until 1931 that the Star-Spangled Banner became our national anthem that we have today. Next up, we've got, for August 1st, in 1876, Colorado becomes the 38th state of the Union. So happy birthday, Colorado.
Happy birthday!
Next up, I've got on our birthday list, on August 1st, in 1770, William Clark of Lewis and Clark was born. And he actually lived in Missouri for a while he was a territorial governor before Missouri was a state, and then he died in Missouri as well.
Yes, he did. He died in Missouri. Lewis and Clark, when they returned from their journey to the Pacific, they went to St. Louis, and he stayed in the area, and he ended up having, at first it was like 1,600 acres.
Wow.
Thomas Jefferson gifted it to him, but then eventually he got 1,200 acres, I think, something like that.
Must be nice.
And his house no longer exists, and the story behind it is a huge tragedy, and it makes me angry every time I think about it.
We actually looked into that this morning. When I found out he had died in St. Louis, I thought, oh wow.
Maybe his house is still there.
Yeah, and so it turns out in the late 1950s, it was a nursing home at the time. In 1960, they demoed the house, and they demoed the whole area to do some kind of residential thing. Apparently, it's about 10 miles west of downtown St. Louis, so it's probably, in a dump, unfortunately, now, but it's no longer here.
Yeah, but that just blows my mind that, oh yeah, this is the house of Meriwether Lewis.
Now, he had a farmhouse there.
Let's tear it down.
And his son had built a mansion right next to it. They're both gone. So there's nothing left, unfortunately.
Right.
Now, he is buried, though.
He is buried in Bellefontaine Cemetery in St. Louis. So, and I visited his grave 3 times. Anyone can go and look at it. It's very interesting. It's one of the biggest tombstones that they have there.
Wow.
In the whole cemetery.
I need to go see that. I haven't been there yet. Next up, I've got the author of Moby Dick, the very famous book. And I think it's been turned into a movie. And
multiple times.
Yeah, the story's been told multiple times. The man's name is Herman Melville, and he was born in 1819 in New York.
In New York, so the author of Moby Dick was born in New York.
Yep.
Cool.
And the last one I have is August 5th, 1861. President Lincoln signs a income tax act for 3% on anything over $800.
Oh, 3%. Okay, so for the very first time in the history of the United States, we had an income tax. And
Unfortunately.
Abraham Lincoln was the one that signed that in. This was during the American Civil War, and it was in order to fund the war. It was 3% on any income that made over $800 a year. Now, it never actually happened, though.
Nope.
It never actually happened. He signed it, but no one actually enforced it. So it wasn't until World War II that we had the real income tax that actually got enforced, and that's the one that we still have to this day.
And it was supposed to be temporary.
It was supposed to be temporary. So a lot of people say that it's extremely unconstitutional, and it just basically got pushed and scammed on Americans.
Yep.
And we all have our opinions on that. Can you believe originally it was 3%, and now if you're self-employed, it's like almost, I don't know, 20, 30%, something like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane. I mean, can you also believe that after the American Revolution, Americans were absolutely furious when they found out that they were reinstating taxes on certain purchases like dice,
whiskey,
and it was a very small tax, but at the time, it's like any tax was...
They thought there was going to be no taxes.
Yeah, they thought there was going to be no taxes, so that's kind of like the whole... That's the foundation that our country was founded on, in a way, where it's like that we said we're going to kick out the British and not have any more taxes.
But to clarify on that, taxes that are represented. There was taxation without representation, which is what we did not want. But most people took it as just no more taxes.
Just no more in general, period.
Mish, what are you doing?
By the way, eventually we are going to go through all the possible dates for American history. I can't believe you're seriously eating more of that. Ew. Ew. By the way, this has so much suet in it. Half of it is suet, which is the fat from an animal's kidneys. And that's another part of the reason why I'm kind of grossed out by it, because it's like half fat, this burger. It's just, it's kind of gross. Anyway, so we are eventually going to go through all the dates in American history, and then we're going to have to end the segment this week in American history because we've already gone through everything. But we're going to have another segment that we're going to come out with, which is today's weirdest history fact. And there are some seriously weird things that have happened. I mean, it could be something that a person invented and it failed miserably, or something that a person did, or a really strange battle that happened, or a weird fashion trend. But we're going to talk about just any random, like, weird thing in history that happened. I'm actually really excited about that one.
Well, that's not until January 1st.
Yeah, so January 1st, we're going to run out. It's going to be the start of a new year, so we're not going to have any more of this week in American history because we've already done a full year.
You need that?
Ew! Ew!
Talk about your butter churn.
Okay. I got a butter churn. Maybe you'd have figured it out by now. So I've been wanting a butter churn for 3 years, give or take. The problem is that they're always so expensive. I couldn't find one for under $100, and that's a very cheap one. I mean, sometimes they're, I don't even know, $300 we've seen. Like a genuine antique butter churn. They're always so expensive. This is the hand crank one, which is a later period butter churn. So it's something you would have seen maybe like 1870 to 1920. Someone uses something like this. Definitely not in our time period. In our time period, the butter churns are the ones that go up and down like that. Mm-hmm. They were using those well into the 1830s, maybe. Some people were. They did have like nice things like this in the early 1800s, but it didn't look anything like this, where they had crank ones already. But anyway, guess how much we spent on this. Ron gets the credit for this. He saw it at an antique mall, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Justine, guess how much this is?" And we bought it. Guess. $35. 35 whole bucks we spent on this butter churn.
They thought it was a washer.
Yeah, they had it mislabeled. They said it was a clothes washer.
I mean, if you're desperate, it'll work, but it's gonna tear your clothes up, probably.
Yeah, and you can only wash like some socks in it. It's so tiny. So this will make quite a lot of butter. Now there's one catch to it, and I don't know if I can show you guys. Here's the lid, by the way. The lid sits on it like that. Now this is kind of awkwardly heavy for me to tilt.
Oh, you broke it.
No, that comes out. There's nothing in it. There's no paddle.
I gotta make a paddle.
Yeah, there's no paddle. So that is the one catch to it, but Ron thinks that he can very easily make a paddle for it. And once he does, we will be back on Frontier Patriot, and we're gonna do an experiment. There's a lady that lives down the street from us, and she has a Jersey cow, and she sells us raw milk. So we'll buy a gallon or two of raw milk off of her, we'll put it in this thing, we'll churn it, and we'll see if we can make beautiful homemade butter in this baby.
I think we should have a butter race, using the old-fashioned stick one and then the crank one. See who gets butter first.
Okay, but I really don't want to be the one that does it the old-fashioned way.
I'll do it the old-fashioned way.
Okay, oh fine. Okay, we'll have a butter race. We'll see. We'll see who can do it fastest, the old way or the new way. It's new for us.
From the future.
Yeah, this is from the future. So $35 for this thing. You could definitely make a very large quantity of butter out of that. Now, speaking of old-fashioned and whatnot, this is only the second time we've had a 18th century video, I believe, on Early American.
On Early American, yes.
Yes, so I am in my 18th century clothes today. Ron and I, we do Rev War up to about 1825 is usually our cutoff. And this recipe is from a little earlier than that, the 1750s, but
that's okay. Because St. Genevieve, we do the French and Indian War a little bit too, excuse me.
Yeah, so, do you like my outfit?
I like it.
You like it?
I like it.
Yeah, this is
I like all the outfits.
This is one of my 18th century outfits. I am very glad that you like it.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Well, hey, we're going to hop off here, guys. We hope you all have had a great week and continue having a rest of a good week. Thank you for everything. We've got almost 75,000 people here on Frontier Patriot, which is crazy. I never thought it'd get over 10,000 at most. And so we're just going up and up and up. So thank you all very much for all your comments and all of your support. Wait, what is going on? You're supposed to let me know when she's doing something. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. We love you. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. See you next week.